So recently, I've gone and watched the Super Mario Bros. Movie at the cinema, since you know I'm a big Mario fan, just like Sonic. I'm not gonna dive deep into any spoilers, but I'll just say this. Chris Pratt did what he could to portray Mario, despite him not being the right guy to cast him. End of. Now, what was I gonna talk about? Ah, yes, this lorry. I'm pretty sure you're all not familiar with him. So, Steady Eddie, let me tell you all the history about him. This was a show I liked as a kid. It's about a friendly and easygoing lorry who goes by the name of Steady Eddie. Eddie works at the Northern Depot where he makes deliveries, eager to make them on time. And if any problem is in his way, like rainy weather or a traffic jam, he would never be complaining, always determined to deliver the supplies to the people he sees. Yeah, he's basically Postman Pat, as a sentient lorry who carries cargo instead of post. There are also other characters that appear besides Eddie, like Loretta Lorry, a female lorry with a Welsh accent who also works at the depot with Eddie, doing some deliveries, particularly in mornings and nights. Freddy Forklift, a yellow forklift from the depot who gets all of the supplies from the warehouse and loads them to either Eddie or Loretta. He is known to be very fast working, rushing in and out while saying his catchphrase,
"Mind your backs!" called Freddy Forklift as he shot out of the warehouse.
Oliver Overdrive, a red lorry who is Eddie's rival, always grumpy, mean, sour and boastful, trying to outbest Steady Eddie by making more deliveries than him in any way he can. Jock the Tartan Tanker, a Scottish tanker who is best friends with Eddie, and many others in the show like Edward the Old Truck, Rick Van Rental, the Train and so on. The show had about 10 episodes as they were released on VHS tapes from 2001 to 2003, each of them containing 2 episodes each. The ones I remember watching were the first 2 volumes, when my mum bought them from a library, which became closed in 2012 and would later become used as a family home, according to this article from last year. So, this is the one we commonly bought, as I remember getting this tape from the library 3 times or so, as this was my favourite VHS tape I bought from the library, so no offence to this Welsh Thomas VHS. And before we can dive into the tape, there's something I've got to tell you about Steady Eddie. The cartoon itself is actually a promotion for the Eddie Stobart Group, a haulage company that also counts as a multimodal logistics company, with their lorries being part of them. And their character Steady Eddie originated from a series of books in the 90s, which later spawned die-cast toy models, an animated series, a coin-operated kiddie ride, and even had a CGI overhaul in the 2010s. What am I even looking at? At least he wasn't butchered like Bob the Builder. So, without further ado, let's see what this tape has in store, shall we? So, like with the Welsh Fogman DVD, there's no good quality of the opening of this VHS, so I'll just have to use the 4th one to back up. We start off with a warning screen, like usual, and the logo for Contender Entertainment Group appears. Now, if you don't know who they were the people that were responsible for producing a lot of kid shows like Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom, Tractor Tom, PJ Masks, and most notably, Peppa Pig. Considering how huge of a franchise Peppa has become, it had been acquired by Entertainment One, or E1 for short, and later Hasbro in late of December 2019. And seeing how this cartoon has been overlooked by both companies, it's safe to say that it has become a rarity to me. The next logo after is Nippers, some company that was discontinued in 2004, and off we go to the intro.
No problem, no problem, no problem, it's just no problem.
Yeah, so this is the cartoon itself, and as far as early 2000s animated shows for children go, it had a rather minimal budget. The show was animated using Flash, which was a standard of shows during that period from the early to mid 2000s. And on the surface, it doesn't look too shabby. There are some bits in the animation that look off, such as when the vehicles move, the mouth movements, and especially things disappearing for a split second. Ugh. So, unlike the last few VHSs and DVDs I've covered so far, this VHS tape has only 2 episodes, so there's little this tape has in store, but there are some things in here, don't worry. The first episode on the tape is Stuck in the Mud. It had been raining through the night, and Steady Eddie has a big delivery for the building estate to bring them materials. After being loaded by Freddy Forklift, Eddie gets splashed by Freddy driving through a puddle. Oh, I'm sorry.
Freddy Forklift drove straight through a muddy puddle.
Muddy puddle? Shouldn't it and the rest be brown? Oliver Overdrive comes into the northern depot and boasts about him carrying a massive load of supplies and teases Eddie for looking dirty. Both Eddie and Oliver soon head on their way to the housing estate to bring in the materials. And we even have the theme song playing, except it's a variation where the lyrics of the verse are different.
Can he carry a heavy load? No problem. Can he drive safely down the road? No problem. Can he go long distance? Can he drive all night? Will he make sure the delivery gets there all right? No problem. Will he get there on time? No problem. Will his paintwork and headlights shine? No problem. Will he be your best friend? Will he be polite? Will he make sure the delivery gets there all right? No problem.
The 2 lorries make their way to the estate by driving over the top of a steep hill. Eddie gets there first, beating Oliver as he was exhausted from reaching the hill. He is told by Big Paul, the site foreman, to have the workmen unload the supplies from him. Oliver arrives and tells Eddie that he'll beat him when they get back to the depot. Unfortunately, when he was about to deliver the paving slabs and fence posts, he reverses and becomes stuck in the mud, hence the title. Eddie is informed by Big Paul and comes in to help Oliver to get him out of the mud, splashing him in the process, unintentionally. Oliver is freed from the mud, thanking Eddie for helping him. Eddie then goes back to the depot to have a good old wash down at the truck wash, accompanied with a song that's sounding like those old-fashioned songs when somebody's taking a bath.
Splish, splash, splosh. Ooh, I like a lovely wash. Bubble, dribble and pop. Make sure the water's nice and hot. Whoa,
Not to mention, this song regularly appears in other episodes whenever Eddie gives himself a wash. After being scrubbed clean, Eddie goes back to his garage, wondering what adventures he'll have tomorrow. And that's pretty much the plot of the episode. Very simple for a show aimed towards younger children. We see what kind of character Steady Eddie is. A happy, eager to finish, helpful lorry, always determined to finish his deliveries on time, no matter what the weather or obstacle. His rival Oliver, with his boastful and rude personality, clashes with his more upbeat and friendly demeanor, always trying to prove that he is better than him, even though he fails to do so and gets his comeuppance. And he isn't confused with this Oliver. So, we have ourselves 2 character traits seen in most kids' shows. The happy, easygoing protagonist who independently gets the work done, and the rival, snobby, rude, and trying to outbest the hero. It's a shame that these traits aren't used more often in kids' shows nowadays, but I digress. Oh, but before we move on to the next episode, there's something that comes straight after this episode. And excuse the quality as it was taken from the DVD re-release as it was from the footage I'm using. We're shown to have a segment of a real-life truck from the Eddie Stobart group, which funnily enough has a decal of the animated character on top of a hauler. Cute, isn't it? So, this segment shows that most trucks get dirty and that they need to be washed. One of them goes to a truck wash to be cleaned from an automatic wash machine with giant brushes rolling over the truck, washing it with water and soap. Not only that, but it also says that trucks also get washed from a hose filled with soap water and a broom. So, this was what I learned when I was a child, and trust me, I've seen one of those car washes near me. The second and last episode on the tape is Special Delivery. Loretta Lorry has an important delivery to take very early in the morning, where she is tasked to go to London. Because it exists in this universe, Loretta tells Eddie that she won't be back at the depot as London is very far away from here. When morning came, Steady Eddie was given a task when Freddy Forklift brings him a new set of gates to deliver for the palace of the Queen. Wait, the Queen? As in Queen Elizabeth II? Freddy tells Eddie that he must bring the gates to the railway station so that the train can load them all the way to London, making Eddie disappointed as he really wanted to see the Queen in person. Despite this, Eddie does what he is told and is on his way to the station, and he mustn't be late. But unfortunately, he gets held up by a traffic jam where it turns out that Oliver Overdrive had broken down, where he made the cars wait in front of him. As Eddie arrived at the station, he was too late as he saw the train had departed before he could unload the gates for the train. The lorry catches up with the train and tells it that he'll make the delivery at the next station. The train tells Eddie to head into the south part of the motorway and that he'll catch up at the Midland station. Eddie does so, but noticed that he is running out of fuel and had no choice but to stop at a service station to take on some fresh diesel. Just as Eddie arrived at the Midland station, he became very late again and went all the way to the next station to catch up with a train. He arrived there and to his surprise, the train told him that he had arrived at his destination, London. Eddie is greeted by a van who tells him to bring in the gates to the palace of Her Majesty the Queen and finally has the chance to meet her. When he arrived, Eddie delivers the gates to the Queen and sees how gentle and nice she is, asking him how his journey was for him. The Queen offered Steady Eddie to park at the palace for the night, which Eddie happily agrees. After unloading the gates, Eddie was about to fall asleep until Loretta came along, who was unexpected to see him being next to the palace. Steady Eddie was about to tell the story to Loretta about how he made his delivery to London, but fell asleep when he was about to do so, ending the episode. So, this was a rather special episode. It got an appearance of Queen Elizabeth herself, considering that Thomas isn't the only show to have her appearing in a world featuring talking sentient vehicles. And speaking of trains, it also introduced this unnamed train who unfortunately never appears again after this episode. Considering how briefly it appears in, I'm surprised that it doesn't have any fans, so I don't know why. And yeah, I'm already aware of a Queen's passing, so I didn't know that the tape I'm talking about has her on it, so let's just pass it off. So, I don't know the order of this tape, but much like last episode, there is a segment featuring an Eddie Stobart truck going into a warehouse and its driver Norman helping with a loading. So, this segment is about how lorries get their supplies in them, showing a forklift loading in a brand of off-brand Coca-Cola cans in the lorry. There is also another type of forklift known as a man-up truck, used to carry supplies and boxes from higher shelves. And also Tesco shows up. Didn't think they would make a cameo here, did you? It also shows that trucks get their loads from their back doors, and when all the cans have been secured in the truck, Norman sets off and... Yeah, I know, Eddie! I can see that. And just like that, the truck drives off with stock footage from the previous segments being used. Well, there's something alright. They're used to educate children about what trucks from the Eddie Stobart group do, like being washed and loaded and whatnot, and I kind of appreciate it. Although I'm a grown man, so I've already been educated in my life. Oh, but before we can finish this tape off, there's a PSA about what to do when crossing the road, like looking both ways, how crossings work, and how the traffic system is like, with this one being made by a different animator on the show. I, myself, already know how to safely cross the road, even though at times I can be a bit up in the clouds and just not look where I'm going. And it's also interesting that they describe different ways of crossing the road, like using bridges or subways, which I barely use them. Sometimes. But after that PSA, the video ends with a teaser for the next VHS, which includes 2 episodes, Top of the Class and The Parade, which I've thankfully seen. And with that, the end credits roll, and just as the garage door shuts, a logo from an obscure company shows up called Full Monty Productions. And from what I've heard, the only other production they made according to IMDb is Dance Workout with Helen. Welp, that's something new I've learned about. So yes, this was what was featured in the tape, consisting of 2 episodes with learning segments in between and after. Steady Eddie was just one of those shows I liked as a kid, mostly because it had anthropomorphic vehicles, as there are a countless of others I've seen in my childhood. Like with Thomas the Tank Engine, Bob the Builder, Brum, Tequin the Tractor, Ari Aweren, the Welsh version of JJ the Jet Plane, Tractor Tom, Engie Benji, etc. And to think that Steady Eddie was nothing more than a promotion for the Stobart group, I still kind of liked it. Especially when nowadays he has been butchered and his friends have been thrown out and replaced with this human who looks like Jimmy Neutron. I feel as if this character has been forgotten to many people, similar to Tequin. But at least the episodes are still up on YouTube and free to watch, so check them if you'd like to. And on Amazon Prime too. And what about the next episode, you may ask? Well, I'll say it's gonna be about a famous stop-motion duo where one is obsessed with cheese and the other is a dog who can only communicate through body language. It features 3 of their short films released from 1989 to 1995, so you'd better already guess who they are, and I'll see you in the next.
Steady Eddie is always ready to make that delivery on time. Doesn't matter if it's raining, you won't find him complaining. For Steady Eddie it is no problem.
No problem, no problem.
It's just no problem.
It's just no problem.
No, I can do it.
problem.
I really can.
No problem.
Absolutely.